This week we'll cover the key principles around membership. Last week when we met, we talked about the key principles at the alliance level. But this week I promised I'll come back with more specifics on what it is to be a member of the alliance, or a cooperator as one would want to call it. And that's what we'll cover today. Before we go there, a quick overview of what we captured. This is not the full deck, but a quick reminder of the key principles. So the Changemakers Alliance, it is a cooperative venture, and it's a venture because it's just like any other business, but the focus here is it's a member-owned enterprise and entirely democratically controlled. The main mission is to effect positive change in the world through sustainable entrepreneurship and conscious consumerism. Now, those are the two main focus areas. And of course, the vision we hold is a vision where every business is a force for good. That's what the Changemakers Alliance aims to do. Our key objectives, again, just a quick reminder, is to promote and support sustainable entrepreneurship, deliver sustainable products and services to consumers. At the moment, there isn't a complete transparency around the products and services that get built. That's an important aspect. Create purpose-driven employment opportunities. Again, if we all had a choice, which was to work for organizations and enterprises that align with our core purpose, it can be a very joyful experience to put most of our adult life into. And then improve the understanding and adoption of sustainable practices. Sustainability is something that people get excited by, but quite often they don't have enough information. So it's an important objective for the Alliance. And the final one, which is achieve economic, social, and cultural benefits for our members. So every Alliance member would stand to gain on these three fronts. A key focus area for the work we do are, again, these are born out of the UN SDGs, but we are only focusing on items that can directly align or serve as a leaping pad for innovation. And these are the 8, but given the nature of how sustainability and the Sustainable Development Goals work, they are interrelated. So although we are not focusing on the remaining 9, the work we do will have a direct impact on the other 9 as well. So on the key concepts, we covered quite a few concepts last week. I have removed the additional slides and will only focus on the membership, which is what the focus was. A quick reminder, this is a slide from last week. It is open to individuals, early stage entrepreneurs, and established businesses. The important bit is they have to see themselves as change makers, and that applies to businesses as well and entrepreneurs as well. And there will be no discrimination or bias, and that's one of the core cooperative principles. I'll not go through the additional points over here because we want to focus on how they will be achieved, and that's the focus for this week. So how it works, and we're only focusing on some aspects, which is purely on the membership aspects today. So from a membership perspective, like I was saying earlier, members of the cooperative are essentially cooperators. So it's a word that we'll use for members who hold a share in the cooperative. And the way one becomes a cooperator is either they contribute a minimum of £10 each month. A maximum of 50 is allowed. We wouldn't allow more than 50 from a financial contribution perspective. And again, we may change that limit once we understand the legal complications around it. But up to £50, I think, is okay. But £10 is minimum. And this is a very deliberate friction to address the issues of non-engagement that we saw in the past. We're not building social network of kinds. We're building a purpose-led network of changemakers. So it's important people who are participating are also engaging actively. And a bit of financial friction is an important way, or it's a good way to kind of ensure that only serious participation happens. There isn't a ongoing commitment. You can just be committing for 1 month and that's it. And you are still a cooperator. You will stand, and the next slide covers the benefits of membership. But if you're an ongoing cooperator or ongoing contributor, then there are additional benefits that you would stand to gain. But once you've become a cooperator, you remain a cooperator, and you remain a cooperator as long as you hold the share. If you decide you don't want to hold the share anymore and you want to get your money back, then basically you're not a member of the cooperative, but you still have access to the services, but just as every other citizen on this planet would have access to. The other form is we don't want to make it financially exclusive. I don't know if that's the right word, but we want to make sure there's financial inclusion. So one can become an associate. An associate is very specifically if there are opportunities for specific roles in the Alliance's mission, then the person becomes an associate and they get rewarded shares in return for their contributions. We already have, I was saying earlier, in the unrecorded section of this call, that we already have 3 members, and the reason is Pasin, Zorika, and myself, the 3 of us are serving as customer care associates. So we are already members, if that makes sense. We will not just open up associate roles unless there is a need for certain roles. At the moment, the need is to support any inbound queries, and 3 associates feels enough, maybe a 4th one potentially, I don't know. But that's the other way to become a cooperator. Now, the financial contributions, so this is all the formulas that are being used are from the slicing pie model, which was built by Mike Moyer. It is used in Silicon Valley for managing equities, dynamic equity splits. So any financial contribution, the recommendation is a 4x multiplier, which is what we will use. So every 10 pounds that gets contributed towards the I don't want to call it membership fee because it is really a financial contribution to operate the cooperative. So that gets converted into 40 shares, so a 4x multiplier. These shares can be withdrawn at any time, but they would be based on the cooperative's current value. Now, the current value initially will, until we incur any expense, it will be the same as whatever is once put in. If when we start incurring expense, of course, the total balance, the formula is very simple. The current value is total money in the cooperative's account divided by the total number of shares. If and when we start expending or we start paying the associates, the number of share pool will increase, and therefore the value per share will reflect that. As the alliance starts gaining financial growth, then the value of the shares will increase. But this is a standard cooperative model. We're not building an equity scheme or a sham scheme here. It's simply the total value in the cooperative divided by total number of shares. So that's the thing that people can say, look, my values don't align with your values anymore, whatever maybe the friction point there, they're more than welcome to take. So it's not money as a typical membership fee, if that makes sense. It is a contribution which can be taken back based on the cooperative's current net value, essentially. The associate contributions, Mike Moyer recommends a 2x multiplier. So the 2x doesn't apply where the associate gets paid. So if somebody was doing a certain piece of work, they would be an associate. But if they say, look, I've put in 2 hours, I want to get paid in real money for 1 hour, then that 1 hour will not contribute towards the shares because the person's been paid, but the other 1 hour will get paid in terms of real money, in terms of shares, sorry. So the multiplier is 2x of the market value. I'm proposing we use the GBP market value using a UK-based benchmarking. At the moment, I've used an example. Now, I haven't really benchmarked what the customer care associate rate should be, but I'm assuming it is around £20. So an example would be if, let's say, Parson was to put in 1 hour to support inbound calls into a cooperative, then that 1 hour into £20 in the multiplier of 2x creates 40 shares for Parson into the cooperative. Now, of course, if Parson doesn't want to, or if somebody else wants to earn those 40 shares, then all they have to do is put in £10 and they've got the 40 shares. So it's all about putting enough friction for strong engagement, and that friction is either in the form of money or in terms of effort contribution. The next bit is member benefits. Now, the cooperators retain access to core benefits, and we will build on the list of core benefits, but these were a few examples I could think of while pulling this deck together. And whether they remain contributors, because bear in mind, if you have a share, you are a cooperator. So if you have a share in the cooperative, you immediately get certain benefits. One is listing in the member directory. We will look at how we can make it valuable for cooperators, and it may just be at a personal level, it kind of showcases the cooperator in the right light so that the world can see the person as a cooperator or as a change maker. For a business, it may mean, again, a business page, which becomes their marketing page essentially. But again, with business, if you remember, we talked about putting enough litmus tests over there so that we don't see any greenwashes in the alliance. They will get priority access to any opportunities. So I see things like, let's take the simple alliance associate opportunity, that we will give priority to the cooperators, not externally. If we can't find anyone internally and we have to pay money for it, then we will go externally. But the priority will always be to cooperators. Even if they have just one share, they still are a cooperator, they get the priority. There will be opportunities from outside the alliance's direct control. So with business members, when they have opportunities, if they want to publicize those opportunities through the alliances, I'm expecting us to build some kind of a job platform internally within the alliance. Something like that would be made first visible to the cooperators, and if we can't find any cooperators, it would then be made visible to the general public. So these are kinds of examples of priority access. There will be discounts on products and services, and again, once we start developing those products and services, we'll understand what the discount structure would be. But as a cooperator, you would stand to benefit, and there will be other benefits that will be determined over time. In addition to that, cooperators who are regular contributors, anyone who contributes at least £10 a month, and even if they contribute £50 a month, it's still that additional thing is creating more shares into the alliance, but the benefits still remain the same, but the minimum is £10. So they get free access to Third Space. It's a community of change makers. It will be marketed at $19.99. That's the proposed price per month. But as a cooperator, as a regular contributor, the cooperator gets it for essentially £10, which is money back. So it's essentially free. Crowd Academy, the learning platform, which we've talked about for a long time. Again, it will be marketed externally for $19.99. Again, a proposed price, but for the cooperators, it will be free. And there may be such services that get included in future, but it's the list will evolve as we build on the ideas that we do. Things like, for example, posting to the job board. If that's what we build, then again, there may be a model, either a discounted model or a free access model, but we will look at that. In terms of capturing all this, if you remember, some of you have SOS tokens, and this is really built on the learnings from SOS. So Aura is the Alliance's unrestricted record of accounts, and this is the commitment towards transparency, where everything that the Alliance does will be on the blockchain, immutable records. Nobody can change it once those records are made. So that's the Aura system, essentially built on the Stellar blockchain, simply because Stellar has many benefits. It's the greenest blockchain that I'm aware of. Its values on financial inclusivity are totally aligned to what we are trying to do. Its fees are extremely low, which kind of keeps the cost base of the Alliance's operations low. So there are several reasons for choosing Stellar, and it's a platform that they themselves call it. It's the platform for moving money, and that's what essentially the shares are at the end of it. So we will, in fact, I'll do a quick demo of that in a moment, as to that we've already built that in the test area. We'll launch it next week. And with the first payment going, the Genesis payment going towards the Pave the Change charity, which I touched upon last week, which is there will be projects, there will be ventures that we may not do because they don't have financial traction, but equally they are important to do. So the charity part is really ensuring two things. One is supporting entrepreneurship among the underprivileged members of the society, but also supporting ventures that would otherwise never get done, and good ideas die as a result. But those ventures, they of course, they have to have their own financial self-sustenance. But if they are not for profits, then they are still very much part of the Alliance's support. The way these will get captured would be through tokens. These are not equity tokens. These are simply tokens of record of shares. So they're not designed for gambling, essentially, or people will be able to trade them. But again, the idea is to enable transaction between members, but not as a gambling approach to equities, as we often see. The tokens will be called TCA bit, but they pronounce take a bit, and the take a bit is really take a bit of action, take a bit of inspiration, take a bit of risk, and take a bit of share of the Alliance. So it's really the take a bit is an important aspect of the branding, but it also stands for TCA, which is the Changemakers Alliance, and it kind of plays on that. It has a bit of a play on bit as well, which was Bitcoin. Of course, it's a slightly different kind of, it's a coin versus a token. But again, to me, they were the pioneers of blockchain. So there's that recognition within that. And again, if you ask me from a geeky perspective, bit is the smallest unit of data. And the goal here is to have anyone can own the smallest bit of the Alliance with very minimal participation, and they get a voice. We've talked about one vote per member. So anyone who holds even one bit of the Alliance has an equal voice share, irrespective of how many tokens somebody else has. So that's what the system will be. I'll do a quick demo of it in a moment. And of course, we will continue to build on the remaining aspects, which we covered last week. At the moment, I've only expanded on the membership, but there were lots of other principles we talked about, and we'll bring that to life through future weeks. So remain tuned in, and at this stage, I'll pause for a moment only to see if there are any questions.
Yes, Dash. I'm just wondering, so everything that you have said now is like the holding company of the entire organization that you're talking about, right? What you're talking about, the place where people can hold shares and everything. This is the holding company, and you have branches that are separate ventures that will be coming out of under this, right? That is how you are picturizing it, or
No, so it's not a holding company, it is a cooperative. So cooperative is a legal structure, uh, well-recognized legal structure around the world. So everything that exists there is a member share, essentially. It is democratically owned. The ventures that we build, again, things like the Third Space, if I go back to this slide, Third Space, Crowd Academy, those would be the alliances ventures. Because bear in mind, it's not just a club, right, where people gather, they put a monthly fee, interact, and that's the end of it. It is about operating it as a business so that it creates economic value, whether it is opportunities or financial returns, doesn't matter. But that the alliance will have its own ventures, and Third Space and Crowd Academy, we've talked for long about these, and these will be the alliances ventures. If there are other ventures, I think what you are alluding to are other ventures, and we've talked about Venture Studio in the past, and now that's not a model that the alliance will have. So if, let's say, and I'll take your example, Rama, given you've asked the question, community capital is your venture. Now you have complete control on it, and if community capital was a venture, it was a member of the alliance, then it gains benefits from being a member. So it's a corporate member, whereas you as an individual are an individual member. So there's that slight difference. But those ventures get built outside the alliance. The alliance, on the other hand, may add more to the ventures that it builds, but these are all co-owned ventures, right? So things like if we decide to create a sustainability shop, where it's an online shop for selling sustainable products now with complete transparency, then those it'll just be like any other online shop. But the returns will go into the same pot as the members. We may use some of the models we used in the past around the ventures with the Venture Studio, which is if, let's say, 3 people are putting in a lot of effort to run the sustainability shop, then of course they need to be rewarded more than other members who are bystanders. So there may be some kind of difference there, but in terms of highly innovative ventures that somebody comes up with, if they truly align with Alliance's vision and mission, and they are willing to have them co-owned, then they may become Alliance's ventures. But that's for members to decide. Does that make sense?
Just for my understanding, so let's say I can be an individual member of the organization. I can put in my share, or I can contribute, like you said, as an associate or in other roles, and I'll get the proportionate equity or shares from the organization. If I want to, let's say, put community capital under this, perhaps I might have to pay a different amount of fee. It might be £10, it might not be, because it's obviously a corporate membership. And then the benefits that I might get from it, perhaps like, let's say, marketing or people investing into that venture, it can be any. And then you're saying beyond that, if we ourselves as the core members of this organization want to start something, again, depending on the proportionate to the investment and effort, you will get the return.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be me personally.
I mean, you in the sense, all of us.
Yeah, the cooperative will decide,
Right.
and we'll figure out. And this is where that one member, one vote concept comes in, where if, let's say, you were to propose a brilliant idea, it's out there with the cooperative, and the members use their blockchain capability to provide those votes. And if it gets a certain majority, we'll need to create some rules around it as to what does accepting into the alliance actually mean. There may be other considerations. But yeah, so if enough members say yes, this needs to be part of the cooperatives ventures, then that will get built as a cooperative venture.
Got it. Thank you.
Quickly, if I may intervene, I think like better representation of all of the member benefits. For example, like an individual, corporate, and community-owned, alliance-owned ventures. Like like how you have those pricing cards or membership cards in different websites. If you're able to box it up and say, hey, as an individual, you get XYZ features and access to this as an enterprise, you get access to this plus individual stuff. Like if we were able to break it down into three different like columns instead of having like linear text and having vertical like cards or something, I think it'll be easier for everybody, all of us to follow because now it's taking 2 rounds or 3 rounds of explanation, right? But I get it. But like for any new fresher who's going to join, instantly they must be able to grab that information. And if it is as like that, which is very familiar to us, right? Like enterprise account, premium account, starter account, things like that. If you're able to have something like that, it'll be like, okay, in this one slide, I'm able to capture all of that information. Okay, I got the concept. Now let's move on to the
that sounds good. As in, we will do that on the website. So everything. So this slide deck is deliberately just kept simple so that it gets the concepts across.
Right.
How we market it would be on the website and what that translates into. But I agree. I like the approach of the 3 typical things recommended and all that kind of approach that other sites have. We should do that.
Card-based systems.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a major. I think that's something which needs to be the maths behind the valuation and dividing it. That there is a slight issue which needs to be addressed, but we can do it later on.
Yeah, so this is everything I'm proposing here is a stake in the ground. Like I mentioned last week, it's simply bringing the last 6 years of thinking in a single deck. Now, it's what I think Sahas was using the word baseline, but it's essentially version 1. And after that, it just gets opened up for collaborative evolving, and everything in it can change then. So,
I think the question is, so say for instance, there was £1,000 in the, obviously, this account, right? And 100 shares, £10 a share, right? Someone takes out £50, then automatically it goes down to £9 something, right? So
it doesn't. It proportionately goes down because the shares will be burnt essentially. Because taking that example, if let's say we were £1,000, or let's keep it 100. So 110 shares, each share £10. Someone says, I want to sell my share. It becomes £90 and only 9 shares in total in the circulation. So again, the value still remains 10. That makes sense?
Yeah. I think dividing it by this is obviously you have thought about this properly. There is, I think there's a statement file. It must be correct. Anyway, I'll have a check on that.
What I'll do is I'll put some example scenarios of what happens when initially people put in money, what happens as because I think that because there are 2 angles there. One is the financial contribution, the other one is effort contribution. The value will go down until we hit the break-even point, right? So if somebody puts in £10 and we've already distributed sweat shares, essentially the associate contribution shares, the moment they put £1 in, it will not translate. It will translate into 4x, so 4 shares, but the value will be lesser. Let me do some instead of just
maybe what can be done is until it goes to break-even point, people can't take out cash.
We'll have to look at it.
Because otherwise it's going like if people start taking out before the break-even point, the entire structure collapses. In my personal opinion, what do you think, Sahas and Rama?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's like a lock-in period that anywhere you go, right? Like, for example, if
Yeah,
I'm taking in an apartment or something and I need to stay there for at least 3 months for them to recuperate the acquisition costs.
yeah,
Or, maybe that's too technical terms, but ideally that's what it is, right? Like,
yeah,
the amount that I'm going to spend for me to get a person to pay this much, I need to be able to recuperate that in a certain amount of period, which is that fixed period time or lock-in period that the
yeah,
members should be a part of. I think
yeah,
that's what Hassan's trying to
yeah,
say, right? Like,
yeah. Well, you explain it better, definitely.
Yeah, the
yeah.
only thing I understand why businesses do it and why it is important to do so that there's some predictability on cash flow and all those things. But equally, that doesn't sit well with the values that we are
Okay.
trying to, because it just feels like you're kind of, it just feels wrong.
But if it fails, right, then what's we are breaking our core values because of that.
No, it doesn't fail because all it does is it shifts the break-even point to the right? So, but
Okay,
what it is
okay,
doing is also giving clear feedback that look, the churn of
yeah,
money withdrawal is higher, which means we are doing the wrong things. As in, why would somebody withdraw? Because they're losing faith in us, right? Now, the ancient technique of lock-ins, and I genuinely don't believe in it because a lock-in is a heavy-handed way of not doing your job right?
okay,
So
yes,
if we see everyone's withdrawing money, then clearly we are not doing the right things to build their confidence. And I think that's the way I would propose we do it. But ultimately, it will be your call
but
once we
I
do
think
this thing.
like at the moment we are not going to do that. Like all the guys, we understand what you're trying to do. That is not going to happen, right? But
Yeah.
like just like how the share market works, one person takes out cash, everyone starts taking out cash like sheep, right? So
Yes, yes.
right,
So
so
it's okay. I think
okay,
if that is what is happening, it's usually, yes, there will be a bit of herd mentality, but we are not building an equity scheme here, right? So it is ultimately, if you're doing the wrong things, people will withdraw money and they have the right to withdraw it, right? So
okay.
it's just a way to look at. But these are, I guess, values that we need to ask ourselves: are these values going to impact member interest? In which case, the values need to be reconsidered. But it's a balancing act ultimately. It's a business, but it's a values-driven business, and it's got to create economic returns for the members as well. So it's a tough one, but let's try and keep our values highest wherever possible. And if it matters, then we rethink them, I guess.
Because the other thing which might happen is, say for instance, someone suddenly puts £1,000 in, right? Takes the shares, then obviously it increases the share value. Takes the shares back, right? Same amount of shares. Suddenly you have you have made a profit out of the thing, which is there's something wrong about here. I don't.
Not so the simulations that I did,
Okay.
actually that will never happen
Okay.
until we hit break even. Once we hit break even, the rules of engagement will have to change, right? Because
Okay. Okay.
if let's say the value was, and that time the multiplier will not even exist,
Okay.
because these multipliers are only
Understood.
applicable until the break-even point. So once it's done, it's frozen. Now, if any new member comes in, if the cooperative's current value is £1.60 per share, then whatever they put in is £1.60, right, worth. So they can take it out, it will still be £1.60. So I think the simulations I've done so far, I can't see a fault in it. But
I didn't know that it changes after the break-even point. Right.
oh, these rules, it's good you asked, because I hadn't clarified it. These are only until break-even point.
Okay, that
Beyond
makes
that
sense.
point, it is, we may not even, I don't know if the cooperative model allows us not to issue shares, but we may say, look, the total pool of shares is now frozen. The only way you can get it is by buying it from other members. So that may be something we may introduce, but I think the cooperative model does not allow for that. So it may be that we issue shares, but they are only issued on the market value, which is, or not market value, the current value, which is still going to be total money in the cooperative divided by total number of shares. So I think we'll just need to simulate it a few more times and see if there is any hole over
It
there.
can't not work, right? Cooperative model has worked. I think it's just a matter of few bits and pieces of clarification.
Yeah. And this is a solid straw man. I won't just call it a straw man. It's got lots of years of experience that has gone into it. So we will see. I'm sure there will be faults in it. We'll discover issues and we will fix that. But because it's a cooperative, we are all in it together. And any mistakes we make, we suffer the consequences. Anything right we do, we benefit, gain the benefits from it. So yeah, we'll make it solid. That's for sure. Right. So are there any other questions before, as in, I don't have to do a technical demo, but if you want to, I'm happy to show you how this blockchain's been implemented.
I don't have a question, but after hearing what Parson and Sas has to say, I'm still also thinking that instead of the 1 month mandatory that you're saying that people have to pay, can we slightly increase it? Let's say it can be 3 months, not more than that, because I'm also feeling that would people just use this as a way of doing impact investments because they invest in you because they believe that, okay, this cooperative is in the right way, they might achieve something. And then even if things doesn't go south, but if they want to sort of maximize their returns or they are in a rush, they might pull back that money hastily. And then if, as long as we are operationally covered, that shouldn't be an issue. But let's say if someone like Parson is saying not 1,000 pounds, if something more, and then we have a venture of our own and we are thinking of investing that money there, or already we have invested, and then maybe I'm talking about extreme scenario, but I'm saying that these are the things that, because there will always be people who will try to game the system, right? So I'm saying, how can we add a slight bit of friction while still trying to live our values?
Yeah, so again, through my simulations, I don't see a hole in it. But even if there was, the maximum exposure is 50 pounds, right? So if you were a investor who wanted to invest £1 million into it, then this is not the route. There will be an alternate route, and we'll have to understand what that is.
But 50 pounds per month, right?
Yeah.
That's the, so I can keep on investing 50 pounds every month.
Yeah. But if you, let's say, game it and say 1 month later, if you say minimum commitment is 1 month, 1 month later, you say, I now want to withdraw it. And let's say we've used the 50 pounds, right? Let's say there was only one member who ever came, gave 50 pounds and wanted to withdraw it, but we've already spent it. So the current money in the cooperative is 0 divided by his 200 shares will be 0. So they will get 0 back. But I think that's the way the simulation was telling me it will work. I think the reason,
yeah, I'm sure. I think once we have few people in, we might also know more things, because it's still now at an intellectual level we're discussing. But when people start coming in, I think that's when we'll face the reality.
Yeah. And initially, while it may break one of the cooperative principles that it should be open to everyone, because we don't fully understand, as we've not fully registered as a cooperative, we will restrict it to people who we know, right? So it will be, even if we make mistakes, then that is a safe cushion. Hopefully we will not invite people who are going to try and game the system. It will be people like us, basically. So, but once we, through that process, and this is just the start, right? There will be a lot of work that will go in to shape the principles around it. And when we go through registering it as a cooperative, there will be certain statutes that will have to write down certain bylaws that we'll have to write down, certain operating models that we'll have to write down.
Whole
But
lot
all
of
those
things, I'm
things,
sure.
yeah, it's not. In fact, I like it because it creates clarity. It will force us to think through these specific details, and until that point, it's just a collection of us who are putting money in a pot, right? So it's not even a cooperative. So we're not really breaking any of the tenets of a cooperative at that point.
Yeah. No, I think Parson has to be perhaps. Parson, if you want to add something.
Yeah, but just want to say well done, Dash, and it was quite amazing. It's a good intro what you have done. But yeah, let's get this. I think we don't care about this part at the moment. What we want to do is let's get this up and running. Let's get it to the break-even point, right? And then we can do whatever we want to actually impact the world. All these rest of the things are, yeah, it's minor details.
Yeah, sounds good. Did you say you wanted to leave? Then if you want, I can give you a quick view of what it looks like on the blockchain, if you guys are interested.
Sorry, I just have a meeting in 5 minutes. That's why I can't stay.
Right.
Today,
Okay.
unfortunately, I set up another meeting. I thought it was
No,
finishing.
we have overrun, to be honest, but we did start 10 minutes late as well. So let's maybe conclude it here today.
I'll watch the video anyway. So it's
Well,
not
I think the demo is probably, as in at the moment, it's going to look something like this, right? So it will not make sense if we rush it. So let me do a proper demo. Maybe on the next call, I'll take you guys through. Saras already has experience of working with wallets and getting SOS tokens and things like that. But I don't think Rama or Pasan, you have experienced it. So we will do a proper version. But this one was really, this is in the test system. It is already, so we've got the TCA tokens. You've got the TCA bit token created over there. So that's the information relating to it. And then you've got all the transactions open in the ledger, which is things going into the Aura account and so on and so forth. But it's and each wallet's transactions are very clearly listed over there. You can go into it, look at it, interrogate it, but it's an open register. So this is the open register for Hope, which funded the initial account. PAVE is the charity, so it receives the Genesis token. So if you see, it has one token, which is the first payment going towards charity. But those things are all created. But there's a very fast overview of what's under the hood, and yeah, it's not receiving justice unless I talk you through it. If you're geeky, you will love it.
It definitely sounds amazing. What we do is, if you're okay, next week we can go through it properly. Sorry about that. I just have I'm doing a lecture for cybersecurity. So
Yeah. No, go for it. I hope it goes well. We will. There will be maybe something before you go. Is I will do a bit of a training for you and Zorika on how to use HubSpot, but we will schedule that at a point when it makes sense.
Amazing. That's great.
Hope your
Thank you,
session
everyone.
goes well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers. Take care.
Bye.
So before we go away, anything from you, Rama or Sahas?
No, I'm all good from my side. Like I think like I would follow up on the next sessions to see how that goes. But I'm getting a much more better understanding session by session.
Sounds good. And Rama, anything from you?
No, Dash, I've been thinking, I think this is slightly different from what we have started off with, right? The venture studio model. So I'm still trying to understand how can we sort of align this with this money that people are gonna invest in. Is there a chance for us to identify potential ventures while we are like, or then even the thing that we were discussing sometime back, microfinance, because all of these are high impact things that we can do. So Plus, I might probably have a call with you next week. I'll just see your calendar and book something.
Yeah, sure. No, do that. As in, to be honest, the reason I'm not using the venture studio word, but the model is still there. I think the problem in the past was when we said venture studio, people thought they could bring their ventures in, benefit from it, and leave, and they didn't want to have a shared ownership. So if you think of third space, crowd academy, sustainability shop, or anything else that comes in, which the members say, yes, this is the alliance's venture, is essentially a venture studio model at that point. But by not using it, I think we are almost removing that ambiguity that exists right now, because a studio is where you just go in. Now, this is not. If you want to create a co-created venture, absolutely, it is going into a venture studio model. So it's there, but we're not talking about it. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Awesome. So if there isn't anything else, I think today's session hopefully gives you the confidence that you've got it, got the models in place. The bank account is in place, by the way, as well. So there is a bank account to receive the money. We'll put some payment systems and gateways and all that. But right now, the payments can simply be made through a direct bank transfer. I can share the IBAN details and all that. But yeah, I don't want to rush into it. Ideally, if we can put a Stripe payment system or something like that on the website, that would be a good thing to do. Whether we do it this week or next, I don't know. But I think what we should start doing is look at how do we get to the 50 members goal by end of this month. And to me, I think it is just about that there are enough people who I came across in the last 6 years. So I'll reach out to them personally, but likewise, if you do the same and reach out to your networks, as in just be careful who you are inviting. At the moment, we want to get the right culture. So yeah, just don't invite anyone random. If you think the person will truly benefit from all this and will be truly aligned, then yeah, just point them. There is, in fact, the joining page. SARS, I know you filled up the form already, so the join as a member form is something you can just point them to, and they will get logged in the CRM system, and we'll reach out to them individually. Yep. So Sahas, do you want to be the first one to become a member? And then three members are there as associate members, but it depends who wants to be the first one and put in the 10 pounds.
Now I'm happy putting in the $10.
Someone's got the opportunity to be the first one, and whoever that is, grab it, right? There's always a special value to the first guy, but I'll leave it to you to fight it among yourselves. Right.